Today's video is sponsored by Surfshark. Hey y'all, it's me, Busfira, and welcome back to Hot or Hot. Today we're going to be reviewing episode 5 of Drag Race Philippines Slaysian Royale. And guess what, Mimi? It's everyone's favorite challenge, the makeover! Where our 8 remaining Slaysian divas were challenged to give drag family resemblance makeovers to OFWs, overseas Filipino workers. Category is Homecoming Gala. In this week's episode, special guests are Alyssa Edwards, winner of Global All-Stars, and captivating Cat Drag Race Philippines Season 2 winner. So we'll be going queen by queen, or I should say pair by pair, since they were split into pairs for this makeover to break everything down, and talking about why I think the judges made a huge mistake this episode with the bottom 2. But more on that later. First up, we've actually got a small update on the Shea Coulee and her drag daughters drama situation, where you'll remember that last week we discussed the dissolution of the House of Coulee when we saw 3 of Shea's drag daughters publicly announce they'd be disowning the Coulee name and leaving her house. And Shea Coulee actually hadn't addressed this situation with anything more than quotes to her Instagram story, but on September 9th, Plain Jane actually posted a video with Shea Coulee to her socials, seemingly poking fun at the situation. In the video, we can see Plain Jane has written the caption, "POV, you're on the wait list to be Shea Coulee's new daughter," with the Dance Mom's "You Didn't Text Me" meme audio as a backing track. And honestly, my reaction to this was I found it kind of funny and not that serious. Like, I just kind of thought it was nice to see Shea dusting her shoulders of the situation and at least acknowledging it in some way that was at least a bit humorous. Because as we've seen over the years, the girls who ultimately lean into the drama and jokes around it created by the fan base are ultimately more successful from it. Case in point, Eureka, who's still getting mileage on her ex profile with the "stuck where the tray left me" meme that she unintentionally created. But Shea apparently wasn't as ready as Plain or the rest of the Drag Race fan base to have a laugh at the situation. In the comment section of this post, we see Plain Jane writing, "Yes, Corey King fed me this audio," with Corey there responding, "Sister, I would never steer you wrong." And then below that, we see a comment from Shea Coulee where she's written, "Okay, can you please take this down? This is not what I thought it was going to be. I already DM'd you, but this ain't cute, girl." Which, like, considering Shea's literally in the video and had to have filmed this with Plain, really just confused me. Because what did she think this video was going to be? Anyways, Plain Jane later complied with Shea's request and deleted the post, but it's only made me so much more curious about this situation. Like, what did Shea think they were filming? Was she just unaware of this meme and how it's used, or was she unaware that Plain Jane was gonna write the comment about being on the wait list to be Shea's drag daughter? I don't know. But this whole video is definitely getting the Streisand effect, which is the thing where when you tell people not to look something up or remove something, ultimately resulting in everyone seeing it anyways. Because before Shea asked Plain to delete this video, I didn't even think it was a video worth including as an update to the drag daughter situation. But now that it's been deleted, it only continues to make me wonder more and more what really went down. But y'all want the real gag of the season? Everyone knows Surfshark VPN, the sponsor of today's video, can help you virtually change your location to unlock geo-restricted content on streaming platforms, like Every Season of RuPaul's Drag Race and Untucked. But did you know Surfshark can also help you avoid price discrimination when shopping online for things like hotel bookings and airline tickets? Ooh. Plus, you can use Surfshark to access apps, news, and spicy sites that may be blocked in your home state or country. But most importantly, Surfshark helps keep you safe when browsing the internet, especially when you're using questionable internet sources like public Wi-Fi. In just one click, Surfshark encrypts and anonymizes all of your data in a secure VPN tunnel. And thankfully, Surfshark can be used on all of your devices with unlimited device login. Unblock the internet and secure your internet privacy today with Surfshark by visiting surfshark.com/bussy. And make sure to use code BUSSY at checkout to get 4 extra months of Surfshark. Thanks Surfshark for sponsoring today's video. Let's go ahead and jump into this week's Hot or Rod of Slaysian Royale. The episode starts off with the queens discussing Kitty Space's semi-controversial elimination, which is mostly just controversial because Kitty Space was the 4th international queen to be eliminated in a row, but also because of this discussion of track records which the queens are having that we'll get into here in just a second. Brigiding, who was in the top 2 with Arizona last week, ends up revealing the lipstick choice she made was also to eliminate Kitty Space, where we then see Brandy giving thanks for a second chance in the competition and says that that time in the bottom this past week was the first and last time it would happen. Siam, however, is in her feelings about this elimination and says that she doesn't feel it's fair that all these international queens are getting eliminated back to back, and says she's sure that if the international queens are in the bottom again this week, that the Filipino queens will again choose to eliminate them. Arizona then tries to defend herself, explaining that it's not that we, the Filipino girls, are picking the international international queens because they're the international queens, but rather in this specific situation, she chose to eliminate Kitty Space because Kitty Space had tried to eliminate her the week prior. And where she further explains that she actually saw Kitty Space and Bernie's track records in the competition to be fairly similar, despite Bernie having 3 safe performances and Kitty having 1 top. And in an interview published this past week with Loverboy magazine, Arizona explained a little bit more about this controversial decision, saying, "To be honest, I'm just that petty. Watching it back, I don't regret anything I did in the competition. I get why people are upset because what I did was unfair. It was. Rewatching it, it was so unfair. However, that's my position and I stand by it because she picked my lipstick. I don't want someone to stay in the competition knowing they might pick me again. I'm not going to risk that because I want to have fun, but I also want to win that money." Regardless of what Arizona is saying to the other girls, though, Siam maintains she feels the Filipino queens are lying and that she thought Kitty deserved to stay. However, Yuhua offers a contrarian opinion in a confessional where she says, "I don't think the other international queens are seeing that Kitty, Ivory, Ting, and Madam Yoko just aren't doing as well in the competition as the Filipino girls." And Khianna seems to agree with this sentiment, saying, "I realize that most of the international queens aren't ready for the competition, but personally, I thought Kitty should have been safe." And where Khianna also says to Bernie, "I know you personally, and I'm not seeing the same Bernie that I see off-season who inspires me." And the queens seemingly end this discussion here, but get into it again the next day in the workroom, where Suki starts talking about how track record matters, but seeing the fight and a queen wanting to stay in the competition maybe matters even more. And Khianna explains to the group that Bernie and Kitty did not have the same track record, where she explains to them that Kitty had been in the top and Bernie hadn't. And the queens kind of go back and forth on whether being in the top is the same as being safe or not. But then the truth comes out. Khianna reveals she's really feeling some type of way about Bernie because last week Brigiding had asked Bernie who her imagined top 4 was in this competition, to which Bernie said Vinas, DeLuxe, Brigiding, herself, Bernie, and Arizona, notably they're leaving out Khianna. And so it seems Khianna's feelings about this situation and wanting Bernie to get eliminated last week were really more rooted in her seeing Bernie not recognize that she, Khianna, was a top 4 potential. And that's the tea. For the mini challenge this week, the queens have to get into quick spider drag and play a game where they're balancing on top of a log and trying to push each other off with double-sided batons. And thankfully no one gets hurt, but maybe to no one's surprise, Khianna wins this mini challenge, making it her 3rd mini challenge win. And Mama Pao explains to the queens that this week's challenge will be for them to split into pairs and give drag family makeovers to balikbayans, which is a Filipino word for OFWs or overseas Filipino workers, who are Filipino people who choose to work abroad for financial reasons and who are really a pillar of the Filipino economy, apparently sending home billions in remittance every single year. And so the queens are split into pairs where we actually have the 3 international remaining queens all split amongst the Filipino queens. But because Khianna wins the mini challenge, she gets to choose to rearrange 2 of the pairs. And so she swaps her partner Siam for Yuhua's partner Vinas DeLuxe. And personally I thought this was kind of annoying because I thought this would have been a great opportunity to have the remaining international queens work with and maybe form a little bit of an alliance with some of the Filipino queens. But instead we've got, again, all of the Filipino girls really just grouping up against the international queens. Which, like, side note, I don't love that they're doing these makeovers in pairs because I think it convolutes the idea of giving their makeover person a drag family resemblance makeover. Because when you have 2 queens with their own distinct styles, how do you come together into one drag family? As we'll see, it also makes the presentation of the looks really difficult to evaluate because the looks themselves would have come from only one of the queens in the pairs, where apparently each of the 8 queens were asked to bring 3 makeover looks, and then in pairs they just decided whose to use for the challenge. Anyways, let's check out those makeovers. First up, and in the order they hit the runway, All I Want for Christmas is Vinas DeLuxe and Khianna and their makeover partner Mariah Ozawa, dressed as 3 Mariah Careys. And I think this duo's makeover package gagged me the most because the last thing I expected to see on this makeover runway was 3 Mariah Careys. But I also kind of loved seeing this because they did such a good job with the illusion of looking like her and paying homage to the many red sparkly holiday dresses she's worn over the years. Like, the transformation part of this makeover is absolutely there, both for their makeover partner Mariah Ozawa and themselves. They all look like Mariah. Plus, the presentation was really camp, stupid, and fun. We've got Khianna pulling a Santa hat out of her bra, and then this moment where they're tossing the microphone back and forth to each other, and then when they're heading back to the stage, spraying each other with canned snow. But was this duo's makeover really truly giving drag family resemblance? Like, maybe not, but also yes, in the sense that they all looked very similar. And if we're thinking about this in terms of them creating a new drag family, yeah, they all are looking exactly alike. Where this duo was least successful, though, I think was making a point to honor their makeover partner, Mariah Ozawa, the OFW. Because in true Mariah fashion, it felt like the three divas were all fighting for the spotlight on the stage instead of doing a routine meant to uplift the OFW partner, which pretty much all of the other duos did a much better job of. I had a lot of fun with this makeover, though. It gagged me. I enjoyed the camp, and I love Mariah, so I'm gonna give this a And next up, we got Brigiding and Suki doll with their partner Bevalicious D, who, by the way, shares later during their critiquing session that the D in her name is for dirty. Gag on that. Like, what? Like, Miss Bevalicious was a freak, and I loved her for that. I don't need to tell y'all this, but Suki and Brigiding did an amazing job, both in terms of drag family resemblance and general transformation. They're in a trio of gorgeous matching gowns, paying homage to the Filipino flag, where we have Suki in red representing bravery, Brigiding in blue representing peace, justice, and beauty, and Bevalicious D in gold and yellow representing freedom. And I also want to note here, Bevalicious is in the most extravagant and elegant gown, where she's got lots of extra applique around the collar and on the skirt of her dress. And where she clearly is this trio's pride and joy. They're letting her walk ahead and really be the matriarch of their family. And there's even a cute moment at the end of the runway when they're heading back to the stage where she tells the other two that they're not being ladylike and ushers them in the back, like you might expect of a mother hen. Oh, and I almost forgot, their outfits are not only gorgeous, but also have a fun little reveal moment where Brigiding and Suki are pulling the flag colors as tearaways off of Bevalicious's dress, and then where they do a little dance with their flag colors. These two's makeover was great across the board. And Brigiding and Suki clearly had a great chemistry with their OFW partner, which made this performance all the more exciting to see on the runway. This makeover was a homecoming. And next up, it's Bernie, Arizona Brandy, and their OFW partner, Hermhie. And these three come out on the runway in some very 80s looking looks, where we learn their runway is intended to pay homage to the actress Cherie Gill, who played the role of Lavinia in the film, I'm gonna do my best on this one, Bituing Walang Ningging. But basically, in this 1985 movie, there's a scene where the character Lavinia says, "You're nothing but a second-rate, try-hard copycat," where she then splashes the drink she's holding onto the other woman she's talking to, which explains why these three are all carrying glasses of liquid down the runway. I think with the context of these three paying homage to this powerful woman in Filipino cinema, their looks make a lot more sense. Bernie says these looks are meant to show how the OFWs need to be brave and resilient, especially when working with other countries. And stylistically, I think these three did a great job matching the 80s aesthetic with that satin fabric, chunky pearls, shoulder pads, and hairstyle. And this group paying homage to Lavinia was kind of like Khianna and Venus's paying homage to Mariah Carey, in the sense that they are dressing as more powerful and extravagant women. But these looks also just didn't really have much to do with Bernie or Arizona's specific drag family, although I did very much enjoy the presentation. They had a clear vision for what they wanted to do, and the execution was great. I'm gonna give this a hot. And finally, we've got Yuhua and Siam with their partner Mehua Phursi. And the concept for these looks is that their OFW partner, Mehua, is the homecoming emperor, and Yuhua and Siam are her prom concubines? Where Yuhua explains in a confessional that she and Siam are fighting behind the empress because their looks reflect the concubines in the ancient times perfectly, but with a comedic twist. And I'll say, concerning the entertainment value of this makeover, I enjoyed it. But the transformation of their partner Mehua is interesting. Like, I don't think the makeup and hair they did on her is particularly good, but it does at least unmistakably look like Yuha's mug. And so I suppose there is at least some drag family resemblance going on here with at least Yuha's drag. But the outfits to me overall just looked really messy. Like, the headpieces were kind of all over the place and dangling odd, and the many layers of fabric used to make these just felt cumbersome, and we like lost the silhouette of these two queens and their partner. Plus, the idea that Yuha and Siam are like her concubines in a harem or something is just crazy. It's crazy. But again, it is fun. And later in critiques, the judges do say this group's presentation was messy but memorable, which I suppose is accurate. And overall, I wouldn't say what they did in the makeover was bad, but I would say visually, they were clearly the weakest of the four pairs. And because of the messiness of everything going on, I probably would only give them a warming up. Which brings us goes to our controversial placements this episode. Our top two are announced as Brigiding and Suki doll, which, all things considered, makes 100% sense. These two did a great job of celebrating their OFW makeover partner and turning her into the star of the show. Plus, all three of them just looked phenomenal head to toe. The transformation, the family resemblance, I mean, everything was just absolutely nailed on this, and their chemistry with their partner was just icing on this beautiful cake. Our bottom two, though, are announced as Bernie and Arizona Brandy, which really gagged me because Bernie and Arizona and their partner looked refined, they had a clear vision for what they wanted to do, and their makeover was clean, with their partner clearly being celebrated as a sort of matriarchal villain in their trio. And I actually would have said Bernie and Arizona were the second best of the night when you factor in both how they looked and how they performed on stage in comparison to the other groups. Personally, my bottom two would have been Yuhua and Siam. Because, like, let's not forget, even the judges call out their makeover as messy. And, like, since when does a messy makeover get a pass? Like, it's sort of a key pillar of a makeover challenge that the makeover has to be good, right? This judging decision was just like a huge mistake in my eyes on the judges' part, and it totally confused me as to why they did this until I thought a little bit more about what's been going on this season. Because I think the obvious reason we've got Bernie and Arizona in the bottom this week is optics. We spent the first half of this episode listening to the queens debate fairness from the perspective of Filipino queens choosing to eliminate international queens. And in result, now here at episode 5, we have 4 episodes in a row where the international queens have all been eliminated, and there are only 3 left in the competition. And here on episode 5, to lose yet another international queen back to back to back to back to back, I think would have just looked bad for the show. And if they had put Siam and Yuhua on the bottom, then they would have guaranteed another international queen would have left. However, this bottom two of Bernie and Arizona guarantees that a Filipino queen will finally go home. The choice of who to eliminate becomes obvious because we've got Bernie here in the bottom for her second week back to back with her first, and Arizona here in the bottom after winning last week's challenge. And so if the queens are making their decisions on track records, yeah, Bernie's gonna be going home. And the queen's private deliberations to plead their case to stay go about how we would expect, but Bernie does have an extra difficult challenge when talking to Suki because she speaks very little English. And Suki really can't understand almost any of what Bernie's saying to her. Which, like, side note, was a little bit weird because why didn't they just have another Filipino girl come over and translate? I don't know. And Bernie's also got a really tough time when talking to Brigiding because Brigiding is like, hey, I was in the top last week and I chose to save you, even though she didn't actually get to use her lipstick, but nonetheless, she chose to save her, and is she gonna give her the same chance again? Probably not. Which brings us to the Suki doll versus Brigiding lip sync to Room by Stell. And yo, this was one of the best lip sync for your legacies we've had in this competition so far. It was so damn good. These two were just so in sync throughout their entire performance, which made it all the more gaggy. Like at the beginning, they're both walking from the back of the stage at the same time, and then they get on their knees at the same time and then do back bends together and then flip around at the same time. I was like, oh my god, did they like choreograph this entire thing? It was just so good. And then at the end of the lip sync, they end up getting on the floor together and making out. They gagged me a little bit for sure. Which of course my patrons know because they're watching Slaysian Royale with me exclusively over on my Patreon, where I upload my reactions to every single episode I review, and you can join my Patreon today and watch with me, linked below. See you there. But overall, this lip sync could have and probably should have been a double win. But since it's all-stars and they potentially could have had different lipsticks, I can see why they didn't go that direction. Like, that could have got really messy. But I actually do agree with the judges that, yeah, if I had to pick someone to win this lip sync, it would be Brigiding, which I say because of how she performed in the dance break specifically of this lip sync. She was like running circles around the stage, doing all these amazing choreographed moves. And Suki doll was doing okay in this part, but she was really just kind of occupying one space on the stage, and Brigiding was a lot more visually interesting here. And so Brigiding wins this lip sync and reveals, to no one's surprise, Bernie's lipstick. And so we unfortunately have to watch Bernie sashay away, which sucks because I did not agree with this bottom two and her elimination felt wrong. On the other hand though, we are in episode 5, and with Bernie's mostly safe track record, she had yet to have a really big wow moment with the judges. But I also want to take a moment to point out here that with this competition being almost exclusively in English, specifically like when it comes to the challenges like the Rusical last week, Bernie is somebody who was at a distinct disadvantage. And might I point out here that next week's challenge is actually Snatch Game, which I'm sure is most certainly going to be only in English. And as we saw in this episode, Bernie's English is just not that great, and so she would have really struggled next week. And so I think, putting my producer's hat on, from their perspective, they might have been looking at an elimination for Bernie as a way to both prevent a 5th sequential week of an international queen leaving and having the awkward situation of having a Snatch Game in English where a contestant has no idea what's going on. Because, like, how would that have been fair for her? It wouldn't have been. That's my final thoughts in this episode, though. For a makeover challenge, I think the choice to put the queens into pairs was odd, especially this early in the season where we've still got 8 queens and are still trying to learn more about the individual identities of each queen. Because with them in pairs, we really only saw one of the pair's drag family resemblance come out, if any. And the reason I usually love makeovers is because we get to see each queen's signature drag come alive on stage on another person. What was really great about this episode was the storytelling about the overseas Filipino workers. I think that was done with some really nice attention and care to these people. And this was easily one of the most heart-wrenching emotional episodes of Drag Race I've probably ever watched. The OFW's stories of sacrifice to support their families back home are so important, and I'm glad I got to see those. This episode was also heart-wrenching for another reason, because we were reminded of the passing of Jiggly Caliente, where apparently this episode was filmed on the same day she passed, and the judges found out about her passing after the critiquing session, which explains why Mama Pao at the end of the episode did a little rest in peace moment for Jiggly. And finally, for my hottest hot in the makeover challenge this week, I'm gonna give it to Brigiding and Suki Doll. I also asked my patrons to vote on their hottest hots, and this week they've chosen Brigiding and Suki Doll. I would also, of course, love to know what y'all thought about everything down in the comments below. And before you go, please don't forget to press the like button or hit subscribe if you're not already subscribed. And don't forget to download Surfshark today using my link below. I've loved using Surfshark to help secure my online privacy for several years now, and I know you'll love it too. Visit surfshark.com/Bussy and use code Bussy at checkout to get 4 extra months of Surfshark. Oh, and by the way, Surfshark offers a 30-day money-back guarantee, so there's no risk in just trying it out. And finally, I want to give an extra special shout out to Ashton, Felicia, Laura, Matthew Burns, and Will and Tanner, who are all supporting me at the Bussy Queen Collectors here at patreon.com. See y'all later. Love ya. Bye.